Here. In 2017, more than 3,100 fatalities were because of distracted driving. And it's easy to quickly go to, well, it must be the cell phone's fault because so many people are driving with cell phones. Only 14% of those fatalities were because of cell phones. And the others were because of things like eating and adjusting the knobs on this and that and connecting the person to other things rather than driving, including conversations with people in the car. And this idea of distracted driving is becoming such an issue that we're creating all kinds of new technology in the cars to try to prevent it. My wife and I, we own two cars, two vehicles. I typically drive our Fiat Cinquecento, a little Italian four-seater. It's kind of like a glorified freeway-worthy go-kart. My wife, however, drives a Fort Thomas minivan, complete with the Highlands H on the front, because that's what we have to do, and has all of the amenities and the safety features that you would expect in a modern minivan carrying our 5 children. And if you notice, my Fiat is a manual transmission. So for those who don't know, that means that I have to actually pick which gear we're going to drive in. And the van is equipped with an automatic 8-speed transmission, all that fun stuff. But the experience of driving these two vehicles is very different as far as the work and the effort that you have to put into driving them. And this is what kind of spurred my thoughts for tonight's conversation. If we go back to the first half of the 20th century, vehicles all had manual transmissions. In fact, that's about all they had. They had something to help steer or direct the vehicle, a steering wheel. They had the throttle, the gas pedal, to make it go faster or slow down, a brake to stop it, a clutch to help with the shifting. And so you had one foot for gas and brake, you had one foot for clutch, you had one hand for shifting, and then a hand on the steering wheel. There wasn't a radio or anything like that. And that was the basic foundation of the vehicle. And over time, people wanted other things. They got bored. Can we have some tunes, someone to talk to us, a radio or something? So we added a radio. And then, oh, it's so hot or it's so cold in the car, so we added climate control. Well, the seats aren't very comfortable, so we added seats that you could adjust and lumbar and all these things. And then we needed more things. And so we kept adding all these amenities to the car, but we stuck with that fundamental steering wheel pedals to make the car, to make it move, to make it do its fundamental principle. But then all that other stuff came on the side. And so now we have cars that kind of look like this, with an infotainment center, and you can cool your seat and heat your seat and change all kinds of things. Open the windows, open the back windows, open the sunroof and the second sunroof, close the doors with buttons, all these kinds of things that distract us from the whole reason why we're in the car. As I thought of this, I thought, there's got to be a way, something that we could do to change how we operate our vehicles and take all of these things that we have added over the years and infuse them into one thing. And that might mean we have to give up the gas pedals and the steering wheel that we've had for forever. And so I started looking at a couple different things and thinking about it. In 2009, there were 210 million drivers in the United States, the majority of them between the ages of 18 and 55. At the same time, there were over 150 million who claimed that they regularly played video games with an average age of, what do you think the average age would be? 18? 21? Average age of 34. Okay? Most of them in their parents' basement. That's a joke. It's not for real. But maybe there was something there. Maybe there's something that we could do with all these people that have grown up with video games and also that are drivers. Maybe we could mesh those together and create something. So I thought, well, why couldn't we use like a game controller to infuse all the different things that we've added into cars, and then you have to have 2 hands on it, and it's all in one place. And you can drive, and you can use your throttle and brake and steer and all this stuff, and it's all in one place. And some of you are looking at me laughing, no way could we ever do that, because for 60 years I've driven a car with a steering wheel, a gear shift, and pedals, and that's how you have to drive a car. But that's because the The older generation is always teaching the new generation how to drive, so we're not familiar with those tools, so they don't work for us. So we have to be willing to say, maybe we should do something different. In fact, this isn't a real new idea. Here's the steering wheel of a Formula One race car with all of the things that they need to do right there at their fingertips. And when you're driving over 200 miles an hour, 6 inches from your opponent, there's not a lot of room for distractions. Okay? So they put everything right there. Wouldn't that be cool if that's how we drove our cars while we're waiting for the autonomous cars to be federally regulated, et cetera? But that was kind of the thought. Well, couldn't we do that? So let me step back a little bit. Why would an educator, I'm a high school principal, why would an educator be so passionate about distracted driving? First, and this is a big piece for sure, is I do know 2 of those 3,100 that were fatalities because of distracted driving. But that's not the only reason. That's not the reason that gets me passionate about this every day. It's because education falls under the same system that the car does. We started with this very fundamental idea. We need to teach kids stuff. And so we put a teacher and we put students in a room and they have things that they want to teach. We'll call it content. And they teach that stuff through different activities. And then guess what? We said, we need to add some stuff. So let's put them in different grade levels. Boom, we got another piece that we're going to add. And then we said, well, they need textbooks, so we had a textbook. Well, if they have a textbook, of course, they have to have a workbook, so we had a workbook. Well, then 50 years in, finally a TV shows up. We got to have a TV in the classroom, so we put a TV in the classroom. Channel 1, right? Channel 1, okay? Then computers come along. Well, we have to have a computer in the classroom. This is the technology. This is the future. Oregon Trail. And so we took this fundamental idea of teaching kids stuff, teacher, student, here's your stuff, and we added all this other stuff to it. And so now we've got students and teachers bogged down in all of these distractions trying to learn. Okay? Let's talk about their world then, because most teachers will say the problem is the students bring their cell phones to class and it distracts them. Just like the driving distractions, it's not the cell phone that's the real issue. Let's look at their world a little bit. Any question that they can Google, we call them a Googleable question, that's a real word, becomes disengaging. Why are you asking that? I can look that up, okay? More and more, their world is on demand. So deadlines, priorities, etc., those are getting blurred every day as more and more becomes available on demand. I don't have to wait for 8 o'clock to watch my show. I'll watch it whenever. Get your homework done so that you can watch your favorite show tonight at 9. I don't care. I'll watch it at midnight, right? So all those things that we grew up with are now gone. The way they communicate includes text, audio, video, graphics. Mix that all together. Think of Snapchat. They've got a video going on with text and emojis flying at them, right? All those things. Every moment of every day, what they're doing could be captured and has viral potential. Always kind of on guard. I don't want to do something stupid because someone might film me and it'll be across the whole school by the end of the day. Alerts. I used to get breaking news only if I was watching TV. Now they get breaking news before I get breaking news. I have kids come down to my office. Did you know we're under a tornado warning? Yes. It's on my watch. I saw that. We're going to do something about it. But they do. They know those things. Then they go looking at something. They're thinking about buying a present for their mom, maybe a nice robe for Christmas. And suddenly every single ad that they have on their computer are robes for their mom. And they have this personalized ad campaign being bombarded on them. Of course they're distracted in their learning. We've brought all this stuff in. So what do we do about it? Well, for 10 years now, I've been very passionate about teaching and learning. And it's one of the things that I've built my career on, is that we need to infuse all of these things. And that might mean give up some of the stuff we've always done, just like that gas pedal and steering wheel. There may be some stuff that we don't need to do anymore, and we can infuse all this new stuff into a new way of teaching students. But guess what? The fundamentals are still there. Bloom's taxonomy is still the driving force. And anybody who's a teacher knows what I'm talking about. Everybody else, Google it. The ideas are still there, but we approach them differently because our kids are coming from a different world. And so I'm going to give you 3 tonight. The first is relevance. Students need to have relevance in their learning, and relevance creates good learning. It's not Unit 7 about the water cycle that we're going to do next. It's why are they running out of water in South Africa? Let's see if we can figure that out. And with all that on-demand and information that they have available, guess what? They can find that answer, and in the process, guess what they're going to learn? The water cycle. And we can keep moving on. They're still learning the same stuff, but we're going to approach it differently because the tools are different. The second is student voice and also teacher voice. And some people think, oh, that means that you just want them to do whatever they want to do. No. Parameters feed creativity. And so you put a couple parameters on there. Hey guys, we need to learn these 5 things this year. Can you make that happen? Absolutely. And so the teacher takes that on and they take it to their students, and the students have some voice in that. And suddenly they're learning because they have some voice in their own learning, and we're not just telling them this is what you have to do. Because guess what? They know by looking online that someone else is doing it differently and they don't have to do it. When all of us that are adults in the room were in school, we had no idea what they were doing. I graduated, the young lady that, I'm going to say young for sure, the young lady that just spoke, I was in school at the exact same time. I graduated a year later. I had no idea what they were doing at Simon Kenton other than our football team won. That's the only thing I knew. But they know that it can be done, and so having that voice is so important to their learning. The third thing is, we say the rising generation is a little narcissistic. Every third picture that is snapped is a selfie. There are 1,000 selfies posted on Instagram every 10 seconds. Okay? So we like ourselves. Guess what? We can create a classroom that capitalizes on that. A student-centered classroom where the students are in charge of their own learning. We engage them in their own learning and empower them to learn. We take the greatest resource that we have in the classroom, the people, and we empower them to be the ones in charge of the learning. So, finally, as we look at whether it's cars or the classroom, fundamentally they're the same principles that drive those things, but with all of the great technology and advancements that we've made over the last 150 years, it's time for us to infuse those things into a new design that allows us to reach students and take them to a new place. And for those who know me, this is a message I will be shouting from the rooftops forever. Thank you.